Hey, welcome to Sustainable Investing. Today we're going to talk about Hyliion's Q3 earnings results and what it means. So first, let's have a look at what the stock is doing today on November 11th. It was just a couple days ago on November 9th that Hyliion released their Q3 earnings. And since that happened, let's just look at the 5-day. We can see that the stock was beaten down pretty badly. I think it dropped about 15% or so from $8.80 per share down to about $7.50 where it's at today. And if we look at the past 6 months, it's down from a highs of about $13 per share. But if you rewind about a year ago, it was at $25 back in the middle of November of 2020. So it's fallen quite significantly, and investors are reacting pretty negatively to the earnings results we just got from Hyliion's Q3. So let's unpack it. We have their earnings presentation right here. So they want to first provide a company look back. And so they formed the Hypertruck Innovation Council at the beginning of the year to actively support the development of the Hypertruck ERX powertrain. From my impressions, I think that's been going really well, and they've gotten a lot of really positive customer feedback. They've also unveiled their improved Hybrid EX powertrain and the new iteration of the Hypertruck ERX, and at the ACT Expo at the end of August. And this was the first time that the company showed the first version or prototype of the Hypertruck ERX in the public. Another highlight was they delivered their first Hybrid EX unit to Werner Enterprises. Unfortunately, this did not happen in Q3. It was at the beginning of October. So this first delivery that revenue should be recognized for their Q4 earnings. But unfortunately, we got another quarter of zero revenue. They added 49 team members in the third quarter, so they're continuing to expand their team and workforce, so bringing a year-to-date total of 150 new employees. So they're definitely expanding their team, getting ready for commercialization. And now this slide is talking about the ERX ROADSHOW kickoff. So this was an opportunity for their fleets to experience the Hypertruck ERX firsthand, and the goal is to provide ride-alongs and in-depth education for the Hypertruck ERX features and benefits, and begins with first stop at Wegmans headquarters in New York, I believe. This is one of the first Hypertruck Innovation Council members and also a hybrid customer. And then they're planning to host more fleet showcases and events at their Austin, Texas headquarters afterwards. And I think that's going to be in December. And then they want a big announcement at the earnings was that one of their customers, Money Transport, has placed a reservation of 40 new units of the Hypertruck ERX. And also, GreenPath Logistics requested to further collaborate with Hyliion on the Hypertruck ERX deployments in 2022. So something they clarified on the conference call was this reservation of 40 units is still requires a final agreement. So it doesn't mean that they've actually sold these units yet and are going to recognize all of that revenue yet. And this is the same with Detmar Logistics, who's placed that order of 300 units. None of it is finalized yet because the companies still want to test out the Hypertruck ERX product before they commit to actually buying it. So these are, think about it as preliminary orders, but still not finalized. And then they wanted to provide this quote at the bottom of the slide from GreenPath Logistics, which said, "After driving the vehicle at Hyliion's headquarters and going for a ride on the highway, I immediately knew this vehicle would change the landscape of trucking as we know it today. The vehicle was smooth, quiet, and drove like a passenger car as opposed to the way we know semi-trucks today." So I think that's really positive feedback from customers and shows that Hyliion has a really good powertrain solution that has the potential to revolutionize the trucking industry and make it net zero. This was a really big highlight, and I think one of the primary reasons the stock fell 15% or so is because of these supply chain issues and the impacts to the Hypertruck ERX timeline. Shortages causing long lead times for component deliveries are contributing to extended Hybrid EX deliveries and Hypertruck ERX product development timelines. Hyliion has already placed orders for all of their 2022 development trucks, and they're working to secure 2023 build slots from their Peterbilt, who's providing the chassis. And they're continuing to work closely with current and alternative suppliers to improve component delivery pipeline. So yeah, this is a really big issue. They're ready on their end to put their solution into trucks, but they're having huge impacts from the semiconductor side to the actual chassis development from Peterbilt and others to provide the trucks for the powertrains to get put into. This is having really big impacts to their timeline for deploying the Hypertruck. So here are the new timelines for the Hypertruck ERX. So right now we're in the product showcase time period, and the status we're at right now is build initial showcase units for fleet ride-along, so that is complete. And now they've kicked off the Hypertruck ERX ROADSHOW and doing the December Hypertruck Innovation Council ride-along events. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And now these are the new timelines for 2022. In the first half, we can expect them to complete the first verification of vehicle builds for the ERX, and then to start on-road testing and design verification of vehicles. Now, the second half of 2022 is where they're planning to deploy vehicles into the controlled fleet operations. And this is going to be primarily with Green Path Logistics, which they mentioned on the previous slide. Also in second half of 2022 is where they start winter testing. Now, we learned from the conference call, we got some more details on this, that Hyliion was hoping to do their winter testing in the first half or Q1 of 2022. But because of all the supply chain shortages, they have to move this a whole year, basically to Q1 of 2023. So it's really put off the whole commercialization by about a whole year, which is really unfortunate. I think that really impacted the stock today and yesterday. So a little more on the Hybrid EX now. So they launched the EX, the updated hybrid solution, at the ACT Expo at the end of August. They delivered their first customer unit to Werner Enterprises in October. So that'll be, like I said, that'll be recognized in Q4 earnings, hopefully. And they've made some design enhancements and simplifications to improve the packaging, easier assembly, reduce the net weight of the system, which is good. That should give it better mileage. Improved overall system efficiency and automatic traction control. And this is another potential impact to the stock's price today and yesterday, is they're saying there's a new competitor in the landscape that could compete directly with their Hybrid EX product and potentially with the Hypertruck ERX. Now, they don't say it in this slide, but I'll show you the company, Cummins. Cummins is a multinational corporation. They develop engines, generators, power systems for all sorts of things. They are involved in rail, trucking, oil and gas, marine transportation. And the big news is that Cummins is now developing a new natural gas engine. And this is the picture of it in red. And this engine is supposed to hook up to trucks with a compressed natural gas generator, and it is supposed to deliver even better power, which has been sort of lacking in previous powertrain solutions. And so this is competing directly with Hyliion's Hybrid EX product. Basically what they said on the conference call and also in the earnings report, their financial statement, is basically that Cummins has not begun commercialization of this new engine yet, but Hyliion is basically assessing whether this could potentially impact the demand of their hybrid EX product in the future. So there's a lot that's unknown yet. Hyliion's confident, I think, that their customers will really like the hybrid EX product, and that it has a number of advantages compared to what Cummins might be offering. So we'll have to see a little more as this progresses, but this could make investors a little more wary that there's a new competitor in this landscape of natural gas and hybrid solutions. And also, Hyliion announced that they have a few new key members who are joining their team. They have Shiva, the new Vice President of Engineering. He comes from Daimler. Joshua, who's the Vice President for Fleet Sales. He has a background with 10 years of experience with Ryder. Secretary Elaine Chow, she was former Secretary of Transportation. So that's a really interesting addition. And also Mary from Delphi Technologies. So a few new members to their management team. And now for some of their financial results for Q3. Some of the highlights they mentioned at the top is that they're continuing to invest in research and development as they continue to execute on their product development. And specifically, they said on the conference call that most of the R&D expenditures are going to be, for now, in the Hypertruck ERX. Most of the expenses for the hybrid EX is going to be mostly in commercialization at this point. They're pretty much done putting in research and development in the hybrid EX. Some other highlights: SG&A increased due to continued build out of infrastructure, operational capabilities, and talent addition. And then 2021 operating expenses guidance is now down to 110 to 120 million, below previous estimates earlier in the year of 130 to 140 million. And this is mainly due to the delays in truck purchases. And so some other highlights: they don't have any reported sales, as we know, no revenues yet. In my last video, I was projecting them to earn about 5 units of sales, but it looks like because of the supply chain shortages and just delays in that area, that we'll hopefully see some units deployed and sold in Q4 instead of Q3. And then they had about 18 million spent in research and development, 8.7 million in SG&A, and a net loss of 26 million. So I think their finances are fine. They don't have any long-term debt, and I think they have close to 300 million in cash and cash equivalents. So that should be fine to hold them over into 2023. So in summary, overall, I think a bit of a disappointing earnings report from Hyliion. I think there were a few positives in there, but ultimately it seems like the Hypertruck ERX is being delayed. Its launch is being delayed by about a year because of supply chain issues. We didn't get to see any revenues recognized for Q3, which I was personally hoping for, but it looks like they've already delivered at least 1 unit to Werner's, and that revenue should get recognized in the Q4 earnings. And yeah, I mean, hopefully they can deliver 5 to 10 units is my hope for Q4, and get some initial revenue. I think that will boost investors' confidence with the company. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these results. Did I miss anything?